when they're looking at new recruits. And they kind of led me in the direction of, we are public helpers. It's what someone told me. So just being able and showing that your volunteering is something that you are doing, but something that you want to do, and you're very passionate, because they're going to see right through someone who's volunteering just because they have to, and someone who's volunteering because they actually want to. Um, the career of a police officer is to serve the public, right? So they basically want to know that you are going to be out there helping others, connecting with the community that you're working in, even if you're not getting paid. So they want to know that you have that sort of commitment, that connection. It just so happens we do get paid to be in the community, be visible. We get actually paid a pretty penny. But it's really, really important that your volunteering is not, doesn't just begin 2 months before you start applying, but 6 months before, 4 months before, and you show that longevity, because that's what a lot of recruiters are looking for. So when I was applying, I was volunteering at the Canadian Red Cross Refugee Program. I was with Big Brothers and Big Sisters, and I also was volunteering with the Toronto Police Service Special Olympics. So anytime they had some sort of tournament or anything, I would be there volunteering. So I knew it wasn't really my volunteer experience. It must have been my life experience. So I got a job at Good Life, and I kind of started working with the public and working on my customer service skills and trying to build that portion of my life. And then I decided, okay, I'm clearly a very fit person, because you have to have a certain level of physical fitness for firefighting, and for all the sports that I did in high school and in college and stuff. But am I at my best? And the answer was no. And I'm going to be completely honest, you have to be at your top when you're going into this job, because as a police officer, you lose your right to be unfit. You lose your right to go 3 weeks without working out, because when you get on the job and you're in the fight of your life, or you're trying to attend a call and tensions are high and your heart's racing, there's adrenaline, you need to be able, your body needs to be able to handle that. So it's really important that we maintain our physical fitness, right? So I invested almost, I honestly want to say thousands of dollars into a personal trainer. And I did that throughout my recruiting process and before I applied to Peel. It sucks that you're putting out money before you're getting paid for it, but if this is what you have to do to get yourself the job, you're spending a couple of $1,000 versus a career that is 100K plus, right? So it makes sense in hindsight, but that's what I did. And my Aunt Kathy got a phone call from a recruiter from Peel about another student in her class. So she's a professor at Centennial as well. So she got a call from the recruiter, and then they started talking about me in my application. And then he reached out to me, and that's how my application kind of got rolling. Okay. So it was very quick, very fast that I got hired. I did 3 interviews in the time span of a month. And then there was a 2-week gap. And then I did my psych evaluation. So I'm not sure how familiar you all are with the psych portion, but basically it happens in 2 days. So your first day is a questionnaire. You're answering almost 1,000 plus questions. It's simple questions like, do you like the sun? Do you like sand? Do you like the park? Do you like kids? Do you like little boys? It's all simple questions, but questions that will make you read into them. So my rule was I was going to read the question once and then answer and move on. Because if you reread the question, you're going to overthink. Sorry, guys, one second. Sorry about that. So if you reread it, you're going to overthink it, and then it's going to become suspicious because you're probably going to answer it and it's going to sound weird. So just read it once, answer, move on. What I found I was overthinking was, do I like, or am I scared of needles? Do I like fire? Do I like watching fire? Am I comfortable with blood? Sort of those questions. And I was answering yes to all those questions. So after I kind of went back and I was like, ooh, do I like needles? Do I like, it probably sounds a little weird, but I did my paramedics diploma, right? And I went through for fire. So it all makes sense. And that's kind of the gist of that. Your next day is going to be an interview with the psychologist. And that is where you have the opportunity to explain all of your answers. So if you do have a question that you're kind of concerned about, and you're concerned about the way you answered it, you can explain that during the interview. A lot of people do end up failing the psych portion simply because they are, one, not being honest, two, they are trying to answer the questions in a way that they think the psychologist wants them to answer. Okay, so those are straight routes to failing the psych. You are sitting in a room with a trained professional, and I don't know personally any of you, but I can probably guess that none of you are trained psychologists that have worked in the field for years and years and years and do this as a living. You can't fool them, and that's just the way it goes. So be honest. Anything you have to say, they probably have heard it many times before. So don't feel embarrassed or feel concerned, because they're trying to figure you out and you have to be an open book with them. So that's the end of the psych. Oh, I'm sorry. They also ask other additional questions. So do you feel comfortable holding a gun? Do you feel comfortable using your tools on your tool belt? So your uses of force, your pistol, your taser, your pepper spray, your baton. Do you feel comfortable using them? Do you feel comfortable shooting someone? And they use those words to kind of confuse you and make you think. When my psychologist asked me if I felt comfortable shooting someone, my obvious answer was no. Like, no, I obviously don't feel comfortable shooting someone. But and then you think about it, like you would if you had to on the job. But that's not the question she's asking. She's asking, do you feel comfortable shooting someone? Don't think more into it. Don't elaborate in your mind, just take the question for what it is and be honest. I hope that most of you are saying no, that you don't, because it's not, that is our last option, right? Um, and do you feel comfortable holding a gun? My answer was no. I don't. I've never held a gun in my life. Um, I don't go into the gun range or anything, but I will feel comfortable because of the training that they're going to provide me. And if I don't feel comfortable, I'll talk to them and they'll provide me with more. So obviously that answer kind of um, was enough. That was what they were looking for. I think obviously because I was honest, but yeah, and that's the psych portion. Um, and then you have your in-depth. So your in-depth interview was my first formal interview. That is when you go to the store, you get new clothes, you get your hair done, you want to look the absolute best, because that is your first real impression, or that was my first real impression to my recruiters and to the sergeants at Peel. The in-depth, they bring up all the questions that the psychologist had from your previous interview with them. They bring up those questions, as well as they bring up questions that they have from your background check. That interview lasted a very long time. It was almost an hour and a half, an hour and 45 minutes. They do dig into your past and into your social media, and they know everything, right? So being very forthcoming of everything. If you've had a traffic stop, if you've been at a party where the police officers came, just letting them know everything, because if they find out that you left something else out, you're done. That's it. They're not going to question you more about it, only because there are so many candidates that probably are as equally qualified as you that were truthful and forthcoming in the whole interview process. So don't blacklist yourself and by covering things that are really minor up. Most cases, they've heard it before. They just want to know that you're not afraid, and you don't really, you've learned from what you've done, and that's really about it. Another thing I'll talk about is marijuana use. It is legal. You don't have to be scared about it, but a lot of services have mandates as to when you can use it, when you can go back on shift after using it, how much, and blood levels, and all of that particular stuff. So it is something that I would get ahead of. Personally, I don't use it or anything like that, but I know of many people who have not gotten ahead of and disclosed some things like that, and they've been blacklisted for about 3 years, and it took them 3 years to repeat applying until they eventually got hired. Nothing else was wrong except for that one piece of information, which tells you that it's that piece of information that's holding you back. So definitely be honest. I'm going to say that a lot. Honesty, 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 and nothing is new. Their recruiters, they've talked to hundreds probably of candidates that have not the same story, but similar stories. So you're not going to shock them. You're not going to surprise them. After my in-depth interview, I had my board interview. And again, you don't want to, girls, You don't want to be wearing the exact same thing. If you can afford it, wear like a different top or a different dress. Try to change it up and just, I don't know. That was the thing, like my mother always taught me, like, just don't be like wearing the same clothes if you can avoid it. If not, then it is what it is. But if you can avoid it, try not to wear the same thing twice. It is a business formal interview. You're going to be, or I was, in front of an inspector, a duty sergeant, a sergeant, and 2 constables. And it was a U-shaped table, and they were all surrounding me. So the environment is very, I don't want to say it was scary, but it was intimidating to me. But you have to keep in your mind that if you are getting a board interview, you are hired. And that's the mindset you have to have walking into it. Because they're not going to take the time to spend the whole day with you and talk to you with an inspector if you're not going to be hired at the end of the day. So you have the job, just, you know what to do. You're obviously good with interviewing and you have something that they're looking for. Be confident in your abilities and be very polite and be professional, because they're going to be relaxed and they're going to joke around and they're going to say that, like, hello, how are you? They're going to make you feel comfortable, but that is not the go ahead for you to start slouching, start clicking a pen, don't walk in with gum. Do not do that. That's a big no-no. But even if they start acting a little bit more casual, you're there interviewing for a high caliber job. So conduct yourself accordingly until you go to the parking lot, and then you can call your mom, call your sister, brother, whoever you need to do, whatever you need to do. But while you're in there, just be professional. My hiring process with Peel, I said this at the beginning, it was very fast. It was during COVID. I started in April and I signed my contract at the end of August. Now, after my LFI, yes, my LFI, which was at the end of May, I had to run the beat test twice a month and videotape it and send it in to Peel, because they couldn't bring us in and run and do the prep sessions. So that's their way of making sure that you're staying physically fit. And then after my psych, it was every week. Thank goodness that I got hired so quick. I only had to do 2 weekly, I guess, recordings and send that in. But you also have to show that you're progressing and you're passing level 7. So every time you record yourself, you either want to get faster, you want to get to another level, or you want to show that your cardio is getting easier. So they're going to be able to hear how heavy you're breathing. They're going to be able to see in your face the amount of effort that you're putting into it. So just making sure, especially for Peel is the most physically, so we put the biggest emphasis on fitness, I would say. Now, Toronto does they do focus on fitness, but I know without a doubt, we had to do the prep 3 times prior to OPC. We did it once at OPC, but 3 times again when we came back from OPC, and that's on top of the pin test. And you do the pin and prep in 1 day. So it is a lot. but it's not as hard as it sounds, because of the morale of everyone that you're working with. Everyone's trying hard. Everyone's tired. So if you're tired, someone else is tired, it's not that big of a deal because we all look sweaty and gross at the end of the day, and it is what it is, right? So just keep that in mind. If you are going to apply to Peel, know what you're signing up for. Another thing is when you are hired and you do the PIN yearly, we give you incentives and prizes. So like if you do it 4 times, so once a year for 4 years, we'll give you like a Fitbit or like a tablet or like a bike, I think is after 10 years or something like that. But there are incentives to keep your physical fitness up. But as I said before, we lose the right to sit on the couch and eat donuts. So know what you're in for, because plenty of people have been hired and fired because they're not keeping up their physical fitness. Like recruits have been hired and fired. So that was my hiring process. I am sorry, just to say, if you guys have any questions, put it in the chat. I'm going to try to answer it as I go, but at the end, I'll also open up the floor to questions as well. So if you have any questions about fitness or anything like that, you can throw it in there now. So now I'll talk about pre. So after you've been hired, Toronto, Peel, York, and OPP. They have the longest pre-training that I know of in Ontario. Not every service has pre-training. And the benefit of this is they teach you everything you're going to learn, not everything, but the beginning of what you're going to learn at OPC. So they kind of set you up for success before you go there. It's really important because OPC is not cheap. It was just under $16,000 when I went. They do provide you with food, accommodations, really everything you need living wise. However, it's also $16,000 and in the middle of nowhere. So just prepare yourself for that. If you don't know where OPC is, it's in Elmer, Ontario, which is 45 minutes from London. Sorry, I'm just reading a question. During all your interviews, how many women were a part of it? So the question was, during my interviews, how many women were a part of the, I guess, the interviewing process? I knew of 6. However, when I was hired, there were 29 females. Nope, sorry, there were 24 females that were hired in my class. The rest were males. So that was just kind of the ratio. They're really half and half now for a lot of the major services. We do put a big emphasis on hiring females. My recruiter was a female only recruiter. So we do have like a fair go with the interviewing process. So just to hop back to OPC, the 3 main topics that you'll learn there is the HTA, so highway traffic. You'll learn Fed law and Fed law and prov law. So those are the 3 main topics. That's what you'll have your exams on. That's what you need to know inside and out in this job. We need to know our authorities because our authorities are what gets us in trouble and what saves us. So when you see all these videos on 6Buzz, people saying this is an unlawful arrest, how are you going to know if you've never really read the criminal code? if you've never really took the time and studied when you're at OPC. You're not going to know, and then you're going to do something silly and it's going to come back on you. So take the time to learn, to understand, and not just read it and regurgitate it. You need to understand it and be able to apply it into real life scenarios, which is that's all the stuff they're going to teach you down at OPC. So don't be intimidated about it. My last class that I was speaking with, you guys were familiar with the 494, 495. Yes, kind of a little bit. Yeah, okay. So you're already ahead of the game. That's the benefit of taking police foundations, is that you already know the terminology, the academic portion of policing, which is a lot of it. You know, report writing, and report writing, I can tell you, takes up hours of my shifts. Even now, I'll go to calls and I'll spend 6-7 hours in front of a computer trying to dictate and type and do all these crazy reports for the justice and everything like that. So you guys are already ahead of the game, is basically what I'm trying to say. After you finish OPC, which is 3 months long, you'll go to post. Post varies in duration for every single service. Again, Toronto, Peel, York, and OPP have the longest that I know of, the longest post in the Ontario services. It's really important because when you go to OPC, it's very generic. They are not specific to every police service. They mainly target the OPP because they're the largest service. And that's something that we're going to have to just suffer through, because I suffered through it, and it OPP is a different animal. I'm like, honestly, they're just different. But when you come back to your service, they're going to teach you how they want you to handle your gun, how they want you to clear a room, how they want you to handle a missing persons. They will teach you all of that. So for myself, it was 8 weeks of post when I came back, and that was all in person. So we didn't do any Zoom because COVID doesn't stop policing. So the fact that you're gonna learn on a computer, it just doesn't work. So everything's in person. So don't be alarmed when they say that you'll have to attend in person. And you'll also go through driving, so in vehicle stops and high-risk takedowns. All the fun stuff you'll do at post, and then you graduate post, and then you graduate, you get your badge. It's all celebrations and rainbows and sunshine, and then you do your field training. And then it's scary again, because that's when you first go on the road, you're in the public eye, there's no safety net, right? Because everyone has a cell phone, everyone's doing this in your face, and like, it's great, but it's awful. What's great about it is it makes you attentive to what you're doing. It makes you not second guess, but it makes you double think about and double check, I guess, if what you're doing is acceptable. They have this thing called NRA. I don't know if you guys know about NRA, but necessary, risk, effective. So is it necessary? What is the risk to do what you're doing? And is that plan of action going to be effective? So that is something that you're constantly thinking when you're on the road. One of the positives with my class and with you guys when you get hired is I'm the first class to have body-worn cameras. Now, body-worn cameras, it's amazing, But it's different. We've never done it before. Peel's never done it before. Toronto does do it. I think it's still no longer pilot project, but it's still very new, like very recent, right? Uncle Chris? Yeah, okay, yeah. So it's still very recent. But you need to, it's audio and visual. It's always visual. Sometimes audio, you have to turn it on to get the audio. And what you see, the video sees. So there's no covering up what happened in a call because it's all going to be taken in and it's all public knowledge. So if a lawyer requests for your body cam footage, a lawyer is going to get your body cam footage one way or another. It's going to come out and you need to own what you did. And that's the importance of knowing our authorities, knowing your mandates and your directives as to like what you can do. So yeah, that's kind of about body worn cameras. When you go on the road, you're going to be with your field training officer. There's 3 phases with Peel. The first phase, you are with them for 4 shift blocks, and that's about a month and a bit. You're pretty much a fly on the wall. You're going to be driving. You're going to be practicing emergency runs. You're going to be doing all the fun stuff. But when you respond to calls, when you're dealing with the public, you're going to let your coach officer kind of take the lead and you're going to be an observer. Obviously, you are engaging when you need to, but for the most part, you're kind of just listening, taking in what they say and following their direction. Phase 2, you are a little bit more of the lead. You can run everything by your field training officer. So all the papers that you have to put on, all of the remarks and comments that you have to make on the MDU. When you're dealing with the public, you can definitely ask your field training officer if what you're doing is correct, away from the public, like take them aside and ask them in privacy. But you're taking the lead a little bit more, but you have their backup. Your third phase, again, 4 sets, is they're the fly on the wall and you're doing everything. You're responding on the radio, you're looking up directions on the MDU, you're start to finish, it's all you. You should not have to really lean on them for a lot of things. Obviously, if you have some questions, if you have a concern, they're there, but it's mainly you. What they told me is that by phase 3, I should be able to respond to a call and they can just stay in the car and I'll be able to handle it. If I need to call a 78, which is a backup, I can call for backup. But I don't need my field training officer to tell me when to call 10-4, 10-6, when to call like for a 78, that sort of, I guess that's the way they want us to run the call. And then after your 3 months, if you need more time, please be honest and tell them that you need more time if you're not comfortable, because odds are they will accommodate you for that. Because the last thing is that you're going to go on the road and you're not responding to calls. You're not doing everything properly because you are just uncomfortable and you don't know what you're doing, because then that sets the precedence that you just don't know what to do. And we're rookies. I'm a rookie. You guys are going to be rookies, and our reputation means a lot. So if you need extra assistance, just say so. If you need advice, just say so. And I'm sure the guys on your shift are going to help you. No one's really rude or talks down to you or says that rookies need to be seen and not heard. Like, no one's like that. But like you're definitely going to be the first one who clears on the radio. You're going to be the first one. You're going to be the last one that calls off on the radio, so off shift on the radio. You're definitely going to make sure your uniform is ironed, your boots are shined for every shift. You're going to make sure that you look and act professionally and top tier, because that's what they expected. That's why they put so much money into you. That is kind of all I have to say about post and pre and OPC. Oh, in OPC, the food sucks. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. Like it just is not it. You can buy food at the grocery store in Elmer. Also, there's many different restaurants. I would advise for you guys to kind of do that if you can. Some people didn't mind the food, but majority of people kind of, it's the same thing every single time, and it's not home cooking. So I don't know. You can pick and choose what you want to eat, but what is there, and you just kind of have to live with that. Also, a lot of people, okay, so because the food's free and you can eat as much as you want, a lot of people are losing their physical fitness. Because there is so much to learn in such a short period of time. There's only so many fitness classes that they can put in. So it's really on you to make sure that you're maintaining your physical fitness. There's a gym, Planet Fitness or Fit for Less, something like that, in St. Thomas. You can buy a 3-month pass and go there if you want. There's a gym at OPC, but not everyone has access to it all the time. So certain people have access Monday, Tuesday. Other people, it's Wednesday, Friday. Like it's all scattered just because of COVID and restrictions and stuff. But definitely please make sure that you're not backsliding on your fitness. I know of 3 people that couldn't pass fitness at OPC. They went in with great cardio, but with all the cookies at the cookie bar and like the poutine, honestly, the Getaway Cafe, it's very tasty, but it's bar food, right? So it's not healthy. You definitely shouldn't be eating there every night, but it's easy to eat there every night, especially when you're being served food that isn't that appealing. So they couldn't pass their fitness. And then when they got back to their service, they still couldn't pass their fitness. They were given one opportunity and didn't go through, and they were fired. So you have to wear that. And also you're stuck with the bill. You're stuck with $16,000 in debt. If you didn't pay for it outright, you're stuck with that. You're stuck with the feeling of being down on yourself because you had this great job and you just weren't attentive to your physical fitness and let it slide. As well as you make it very difficult for yourself to get hired to another service when you were already hired and they were paying you to go to school, but you got fired because you couldn't finish a test. It's just very silly. So guys, just do what's asked of you. Do literally the bare minimum. And you'll totally be fine. They do accommodate dietary needs. They do, 100%. So if you're a vegan, vegetarian, if you don't eat like red meat, that sort of thing, they do accommodate you for sure. You just have to tell them before going into OPC. So on the first day, you fill out a form, and that's kind of how you go about that. Um, Another thing was, oh, I'll throw my email in the chat. Um, just if you guys have any questions that you forget or kind of come to mind after, you can definitely ask me. I'm also going to put in the chat a fitness trainer. I'm in Brampton, but he's in Toronto, so I don't know where you guys are. But if you do identify that your physical fitness isn't bad, but you want to get better because you're almost at that point of applying. He specializes in law enforcement training, and he can definitely help you and get you in the best shape for the tests required for the job. Another thing I'll talk about is connections. So Toronto does great prep sessions. They did ATS sessions when that was a thing. But I urge every single one of you to attend a prep session, attend an information session, make your face known, your name known, because if you do apply there, they're going to see your name and they're going to put a face to that resume, right? They're going to call Toronto and be like, oh, I heard this person attended 4 prep sessions. Can you tell me about them? And that's the way you kind of want things to go. You want people to have only good things to say about you, and you obviously you want to be known. You want to stand out. And that's the name of the game, is being able to stand out in a pool of thousands that are applying for the same position that you are. So if you can network that way, or if you have family friends to network with, that's great. Other jobs, I know that you guys were looking at your resumes previous to me starting to talk with you. One job, or the top 3 jobs that I will say helps the most, is loss prevention, corrections, and hospital security. Really any security, but hospital security the most, because we do medical calls. Okay, so you're going to be exposed to a lot, and you're going to learn a lot while being paid, which is the best, but while building experience. So if you can apply, if there's job openings at the hospital, at I know the South Detention Center, as well as Vanier, which is a female prison down in Milton, I think. They are hiring. I don't know if that kind of appeals to anyone, but majority of the people in my recruit class or the people at OPC did those 3 jobs. And it helps a lot. Another huge thing. If you can start doing jujitsu, start doing boxing, start doing some sort of self-defense, that is going to help you not only on the job, but at OPC and at post. There's skills within jujitsu that we need to learn, that we are going to use when we are fighting for our life or fighting for our gun. And that's one of the biggest things now, is like disarming a police officer, and just people are so silly sometimes, and like the most outrageous things people are going to do. So we need to be prepared to protect ourselves when shit's hitting the fan. Okay. So yeah, if you can do jujitsu, boxing, any sort of self-defense, that's amazing. And recruiters are going to love that. Your liaison, your like hiring liaison, recruiting liaison, they're going to love that. Another thing is, I don't know if anyone's in the military, or has a military background, but that's also a huge bonus. Life experience and just policing is paramilitary, right? So it's going to help you for sure. Um, but if you don't have any of those sort of backgrounds, that's okay, because in the recruiting, it's all about life experience and transferable skills, because they don't want cookie cutters. They don't want everyone to have the same skills, to have the same personality. We need different levels and different levels of experiences, because we all work as a team. And if someone has a skill in one area, but we need a translator, and there's someone on your shift that knows a different language, that's when you're going to be utilized. Or if someone is really good at room clearing and someone is really good at talking to youth, or has a lot of experience in youth, you're going to be probably those two units are going to be called to a premise check or a missing YO, which is a missing youth. Last night, I'm just coming off a night shift. So if I'm like, honestly, I'm super tired, but if I'm slurring my words, it's just because I'm tired. But I just had a call last night where there was a missing 12-year-old. She left notes on the fridge. There was just a whole bunch of things that were kind of going off for us that would indicate the worst. And the dispatcher would call certain units, because dispatchers over time, they know what our strengths are, and they know what units to call for what call. And certain people got called, certain people did not. Obviously, everyone ended up showing up because it's a missing youth. We did find her. It was after my shift ended, but we did find her. She just kind of took a little joyride on a bus, but we did track her, which is great. The end of the day, we all went home, we all saw our families, which that's the goal for every single day, is what can I do at the call to go home safely to my family? Nothing else is important. It's officer safety first. And I'm a very empathetic person, and I don't like confrontation. I'm not one to start an argument, but I'll definitely intervene if things are getting, hey Gabby, if things are getting too escalated. Because when things get escalated, certain things can happen. And now it seems like everyone and their uncle carries a gun. So you you just got to be careful. So stopping things with your mouth is the best way to go. But it's officer safety every day, all day, because yes, we protect the public, but we protect ourselves first, okay? Now, I know there's a lot of services that do single man cars. I thought what that meant was I'm walking into a house by myself, and if things happen, and I have to wait for backup. No, it doesn't happen like that. If you're walking into an unknown house, and if it looks a little bit sketchy, if anything kind of tips you off that it's not going to be okay, you're going to call for a 78. You're going to call for backup. You're going to wait in your cruiser and sip your coffee until your 78 comes, and then you can formulate your plan. You can go in together and sort of combat whatever you need to combat, but safely. Okay. I don't think there's anything else. I don't think I missed anything, but again, if you guys have questions, please put it in the chat, and I'll start to answer those. When you are assigned to a shift, how many other members are on the shift? Okay, so when you are assigned to a shift, how many other members are on the same shift? With Peel, we do staggered start times. So we do a 6 o'clock start, a 7 o'clock start, and a 9 o'clock start. I'm on B platoon, and there's 32 of us. Yeah, 32 of us on B platoon, and we're all we're all assigned different start times, just so when we finish at different times, so we don't leave anyone, we don't not have anyone on the road. Because the worst thing is if you get a very violent domestic and everyone's going off shift, there's no patrol cars on the road. What are you going to do if someone's getting beat up in a park with the baseball bat and everyone's off shift? You can't say, oh, well, I got to go home, I got to go sleep. Like, you can't do that. So that's why we do the staggered start time, and it's 32. Toronto is probably a lot more, just because you need that volume. Whether, okay, could I get some clarification? So your corrections, you're asking about the hiring process for corrections?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
like, does it work the same as like if we were supposed to just apply to any service?
Yeah, so my dad is actually a sergeant for Toronto South Detention. And Dad, is it the same? Yeah, it is the same. You're going to apply online.
Is Leon camera shy right now?
Yeah. Yeah, that's Chris. Gordon.
Hey, Chris, how you doing? How you doing, buddy?
It is the same process. You're going to apply on the ministry website, and they're going to have different job listings. You are going to do a physical component. It is different than the policing one. However, I don't think you do as many interviews. I think they only have 3 interviews and 1 physical. But yeah, I'm pretty sure he's just writing something down. So I'm just waiting to get that information for you. What jails are hiring right now? Okay, so all the jails are hiring right now. So Vanier, Maplehurst, Toronto South, and there's a few in Kingston area.
I have a question.
Yeah.
For corrections, like, cause I'm only 20, like, is there like, you know, an age, cause you were telling me for policing when you applied earlier, it was like your age, is there like an age for corrections?
No, there's no age. I know of people that started in their 20s, and it's, when you are someone who wants to go into policing, corrections is a stepping stone. So you're going to be in corrections for a few months, and then as soon as you have it on your resume, a police service is going to snap you right up, because you're exposed to so many things. You do search, you do escorts, you are a little bit more proficient with the court system. You are exposed to a lot. The same thing goes for loss prevention. You do notes, you go to court and stuff. Okay, so for corrections, this is a policing thing, Dad. Guys, we're here for policing. We're not here for corrections. But you're doing 2 months of training. There's 12-hour shifts, 10-hour shifts, 8-hour shifts, and it's $27 an hour to start. It's police, like, do you want to deal with them behind bars, or do you want to take them off the streets? And be in the gutters with all the people. That's what we're here for. You're not doing that all the time. That's once in a blue moon. But I like hands-on. I like to be in there at firsthand. Corrections is a very different environment. It's controlled. Policing is very controlled but uncontrolled, because there's a lot of variables. With corrections, you're in a fort, not like you're in a fortress. There's not much that can happen. You have backup. You have backup, but it's not like there's an unknown gun, there's unknown drugs, you don't know who this person is. You know what you're walking into. And that's the difference between policing and corrections. But both have its challenges and its benefits and its downsides. There's another question. How is personal life? Oh. So personal life with COVID. As I said, COVID does not stop policing. So it's the same. When I respond to calls, I need gloves, I need a mask, and I need glasses. Other than that, it doesn't really stop anything. We still conduct our interviews the exact same way. We have the plexiglass barriers in the cars. Obviously, there's the plexiglass barriers in the back, but it doesn't stop anything other than a very annoying COVID screening that you have to do at the beginning of your shift. But other than that, it's the exact same. My life-work balance is off right now just because I am a rookie and I am in a very steep learning curve. But Peel works on a 4 days on, 4 days off shift exchange. So those 4 days on, you're really not doing anything. You're working, you're sleeping, and you're eating. The 4 days off is totally your time, that you can do whatever you want to do on those 4 days off. And it's really great. I like our shift schedule. Now, when you introduce court, sometimes court is scheduled on your days off, but obviously your sergeants and who's ever in charge of scheduling out court is going to try their best to make it on your shift days, which is good because the worst thing is having to spend your off day at court. But you are paid time and a half, so for every sacrifice, there's a pretty penny. So, yeah. Do you know if the schedule for days off? Peel cadets. Who wants to do cadets? Hand. Okay, awesome. Yes, it does apply for cadets. They do work. They work a whole bunch of just shift schedules. So some work Monday to Friday. Some do a continental, which is 4 on, 5 off, 5 on, 4 off, or something weird like that. It depends on where you're deployed. So you can go to firearms, you can go to 21, 22, 12, 11, whatever division you want. You can go into not TAC, but DT, which is our defensive tactics. You can help out with the recruit program. If anyone needs experience, cadet or what's the other one? What's the other one, Dad? Cadet and auxiliary. That they're great. They're great for experience, exposure, connections. If you don't have the money to go to OPC and you want to continue working and building your resume, those are two great options, cadet and auxiliary. Another thing is for the payment for OPC. I did mention it's very expensive. However, I went through the police credit union. They pay OPC directly, so you don't have to pay prior to going. You kind of, it's a line of credit essentially, so you pay it off as time goes on. But what's great about it is they have you put your paycheck into the credit union account. They automatically take the line of credit payment out. So it's just, there's no fuss about it. And it's simple that way. If you want to pay it out, you can pay it out, like out of pocket, but I just was not in a position to do that. So the credit union's a great option, but it's only available to the major police services. It's not available to all. So like Sault Ste. Marie and Windsor, and I think it's Windsor, and some like Six Nations and stuff, they don't have the ability to apply to the credit union. So just keep that in mind when you are applying. Prior to applying to I did, yes. So prior to applying to the police service, did you do some research about the service and the diverse communities they serve? Yes, especially you want to do that anyways, going into an interview, because you don't want to look silly and not know any information about where you say you're going to be loyal to, and you want to be a part of the community. If you want to be a part of the community, know about the community before you start applying. So just a quick Google search, look at their police services website, because they do have a lot of that information there. Know some of the key information. So their values, their mission statement, that sort of information is great to know at your very first interview, because you want to start off on a good foot. You want to start off and give the impression that you are competent and you are knowledgeable. And as well, I think it's just on Google, you can see the types of communities that are within that region. Because again, all of that information is public knowledge, so you shouldn't have a very difficult time. Just take the time to do it. There is no slipping through the cracks with this job because of the volume of people that are applying for the exact same position. If you have the mindset of, oh, I'll just apply and see what happens, you're setting yourself up for failure, because you don't see what happens for a 100K job. You go into the interview, you submit your application being very confident that if something happens and I do get an interview or I do get a response email, I will be able to impress them. I will set myself up for success. And you should be in that position before applying. And if you're not in that position yet, that's fine. Just identify where you need to work on and do it. Work on it. Don't just sit on it, because we never know when another hiring freeze is going to happen. There was a hiring freeze with Toronto all those years ago, and it was very, very difficult to get on. We are thankfully in the position where a lot of police services are hiring, but just think about it, with all those people that they're hiring, they're filling numbers. And at some point, all the numbers are going to be filled and there's not going to be a lot of people retiring. And it is what it is. So we need to be proactive and kind of be ready whenever the opportunity comes our way. Is there any other questions? No? Okay, well, like I said, I'm gonna put my friend's contact information down. His name's Hakeem, he's great. Tell him that Savanna sent you. He runs through an Instagram page, so you can just send him a message, whatever you need to do. I'll put in my email address. If you guys have any questions tonight, tomorrow, 6 months from now, I really don't care. I'm more than happy to help you. If you do get an interview and you do have some more questions, it's kind of getting down to the wire, last minute stuff, reach out to me because I do a lot of mentoring, even in OPC. I helped a lot of females, especially and males, get into physical shape with the prep and with the beep test. The beep test is the biggest thing that holds a lot of people back. So if you need help with that, just let me know, and I'll be around. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you, Savanna.
You're
I really
welcome.
appreciate it. Does anybody have any further questions, or would you like to thank her for taking the time out, coming off of a midnight shift? Yeah, and, you're right. And I apologize because now this is now your third hour of doing this. You did class earlier on. So I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day. Oh, I see in the chat room you're getting a lot of thank yous, right? So thank you.
Yeah. You're very welcome, guys. You're very welcome. But please don't be a stranger. And I'm looking forward to seeing many of your faces on the road because services do work together. So there will be a time you're working with Durham and you're in London. So make those connections, especially when you're at OPC, save those numbers, put them in the back of your phone or write them down somewhere. But I'm sure I'll see a lot of you on the road, and I hope you guys have a safe and a fun career, okay? So that's me. Enjoy your evening, okay? And I'll talk to you guys later.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.
And I just want to stress one thing that we talked about in class, the importance of networking. And as you can see, Savanna's explained that to you, that yeah, she used to come to our prep as well in Toronto. And those calls do get called, like I told you, behind scenes, there's phone calls that get made and people that know people, right? So we all work as a team collectively because you are going to wear a uniform, whether it's in Toronto, York, doesn't matter. You become my brother in blue, and we have to collaborate at some point. And we may be investigating matters that we overlap, and we have to, you know, what we call interjurisdictional. We're going to Peel to arrest somebody in Peel, and we need their support. It's the same as Peel may be arresting somebody in Toronto, and they need our support. So just think about ways that you can, again, network. I know it's COVID times, but look at the services, especially when they're doing Zoom. If they're doing Zoom, that's a good time to just generate some questions and just get your face out there. I tell you in class, everybody hides behind what I call the black screen, and I get it. You know, I'm not telling you I want to see into your homes or your lives, but what I am saying to you is that if nobody knows you and you remain that anonymous person, then how did, like, you know, somebody's going to make that phone call. Same way it happened when Savanna was, her aunt was being inquired for somebody else, one of the Centennial College students, and then the conversation just happens to pop up. And then there was phone calls made because I knew when she was applying to Peel, because Peel called me. And she also told me because that's my niece, right? So I actually knew, because that's how we start going all over the place to figure out, what do you know about this person? What's their commitment? What are they doing towards preparation? Do you see this person in this uniform? Those questions get asked. And those are the off-course questions. Those are the ones that I suggest to you that your neighbors who live next door to you may get that question when you apply, because somebody's doing a home check at you. So they may go next door and say, hey, what do you think about this person? Would this person be a person that you respect and has some form of integrity that you can see them upholding the law, right? So you have to start thinking that way to get yourself out there. Unfortunately, it's like a car ad, right? You know, what makes you want to buy